In a recent movie, in General Architecture, we very quickly looked at memory and buffers. Now let's go into that stuff in a little more detail. The Oracle buffers. Some interesting facts about them. In Oracle 11g Release 2, R2, we simply use some parameters called MEM parameters. There are two of them. In past versions of Oracle there were parameters for all sorts of different things. They're now all contained in the two MEM parameters. The MEM parameters are highly compatible with 64-bit servers. I've worked with them on single instance and rack databases on Linux, on Solaris, on Windows, and they work very well. Don't be suspicious of them, don't be afraid of them. Substitute all those little bitty memory parameters such as the cache parameters or the SGA and PGA. Use the MEM parameters, they work much better. They work well with greater than 4 gigabytes of RAM, which is obviously common with 64-bit servers. The trend in Oracle, as in many databases, is towards larger things, larger files, larger buffers, larger this, larger that, and also towards automation. I've been using software and working in the IT industry for 25 years. I've been working with Oracle databases and other relational databases and even object databases for years and years and years, and I know how to do a lot of this stuff, but the automation, I must admit, is better than me in many respects. I trust it. I don't necessarily trust it when it first comes out, but I work through the process and work through the issues, and generally in subsequent releases the stuff generally works its way into being bulletproof and commercially viable and usable. It does work. Oracle generally makes the automation part better and better as time goes by, and they're getting better at managing memory. What I like to do with memory parameters is to show kind of how they've evolved. First of all, these are the 11g R2 parameters, the MEM parameters. Control Enter. I'm going into a view called V parameter, which lists all the configuration parameters for an Oracle database. And as you can see, I have these two values set in my 11g R2 installation on Linux. If I go back a little bit, I go back into PGA and SGA, which is more or less Oracle version 11.1 and the later versions of Oracle 10, such as 10.2, we get these parameters, which are SGA and PGA parameters. PGA aggregate target and SGA target. Note they're not set. The SGA max size value is set, but it should be the same as the memory parameters. If I go back and I run the memory parameters again, I should get exactly the same value. In fact, what I could do is just alter this query, or better still, copy and paste it. Let's go to here and say or name like MEM, Control Enter, and I should get them all on the same screen. I've got SGA max size, and I can get rid of this message log thing. You got exactly the same values in here. I'm not quite sure why Oracle 11.2 still requires that value to be set, but it's probably not relevant. So, in Oracle 11.2, the memory parameters were released, which govern all the memory buffers, which we'll see in a minute. In a slightly previous version of Oracle, what they did was they first of all automated the PGA, which is the connection memory. SGA is the memory that's used by Oracle on the server. The PGA is program global area used by connections coming into the server. So for things like sorting and that kind of stuff. But on the server as well. They automated PGA first to make sure it works, then they automated SGA and PGA, and then eventually they pushed it all into the memory parameters. If we go all the way back to Oracle 9 and we look at the older parameters, this is some of them. As you can see, there's lots of them. If we go back to Oracle 9, as in this query here, which I've just run, we get things like DB cache size, multiple cache block sizes, keep and recycle pools, flash cache log buffer, session, all sorts of things in here are actually memory parameters. I don't have all of them here. They're not all listed. But essentially what's happened is Oracle has replaced all those little bitty memory parameters DBAs used to fiddle with just these parameters. And all you're doing is assigning a maximum value for Oracle to use as memory, and it will manage all the pieces on the inside of the database, namely all these buffers here, with just the memory parameters. And this leads us to the processes. As I said, there are a bunch of processes. Let's go and take a look at them in the database. So I'm going to describe v $process. Control Enter. And this should give me all, well actually this is just the table, not the actual processes. Now I can go and look at the processes themselves. Control Enter. And you get a whole lot of stuff in here. And it basically gives you connections, background processes. These are all the types of processes here. If I go onto my Linux box, I can see them from the point of view of the server. Let's get out of SQL Plus, and it hadn't terminated a command there, so it was looking for a termination character. ps-ef grep, let's say ORA. This is all the Oracle background processes, quite a few of them. I could name them, it's not necessary. You can see pmon there. If you look carefully, somewhere you'll find logwriter. There's a single database writer process, smon, recovery manager, I think, mmon I think is to do with statistics, checkpoint process. There's lots of things that run to keep Oracle working and running properly.